Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is June the 27th, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing great on my favorite day of the week. Let's see. It was a nice summer day. I want to start there. Granted, I was at work for most of it, but because it was literally so slow, I spent a good chunk of it outside, just playing on my phone, and like I just had a moment where I looked up and out. And I'm like, okay, like I'm not like profusely sweating out of my tits. I'll just say it. No under, like I had a little bit of under boob sweat. I always do, but not too bad. It was manageable. And nice little breeze kicking. It was a nice little sweet day. Let's see here. Food corner from last night. I made smash burgers, which they were so yummy. It was so surreally good for me. I've had a smash burger before, but this is like my first time in a long time trying to make them. Definitely didn't do perfect. I wish I had one of those like there's like a masher you can use that just literally, it's like, it almost just looks like a flat iron, and you just mash a patty down with them. I want that now. I need that so bad in my life because they're so good, and I totally understand it. Like, the more you mash, the better the taste. It's hard to explain. I'm sure there's some people that are very anti smash burgers because it's like, you're smashing out the flavor, but mash that shit down to like a crispy little meat chip or something, condensed in flavor. Oh yeah, I'm down for that. So we had that, and I had a hot dog and some fries and beans and coleslaw. Busted that back out. So yeah, it was a yummy little meal. I was on cloud nine, and like the burgers, like almost. I had like faint taste moments of like Steak and Shake and Wendy's, and I was like, yes, yes. Why don't I cook my burgers like this more often? But I will add that like I used ground beef that I normally would use for like other stuff. I just had like some remainder, and I didn't need it. So didn't want to let it go to waste, of course. I normally use frozen patties, so that's why I don't normally do a smash burger. It's kind of weird to, or not really. It's possible, but I normally don't cook them in a skillet when I do that. I have a little like George Foreman, a little behind the scenes there. That's right, y'all. I'm not a good chef, and I'm not a good one. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor, just like Reba. Anyway, enough about that. I feel like we can go ahead and get into the news. I don't see why not. But before we do, let's go ahead and do our startup, and we'll get into it. Okay. Now, we're starting off with like technically multiple stories in one. I love that for us. It's a bit of a Yahoo News Supreme Court roundup. So, yeah, they did four uh, verdicts or rulings, whatever you want to call them today. Probably rulings is the right word. Well, whatever. Supreme Court issues decisions on abortion, Oxycontin settlement, environmental protection, and SEC fraud. A look at today's rulings. So let's try to run them down a little bit. The Supreme Court issued four more opinions on Thursday, but did not include the highly anticipated decision regarding former President Donald Trump's claims of immunity from criminal prosecution ahead of Thursday night's presidential debate between Trump and President Biden. That takes place later on tonight. So, I mean, if you're, into that sort of thing, check it out. I haven't even decided if I'm going to actually watch it or just do, like, clip watch tomorrow. We'll see. But I'm definitely going to be yapping about it tomorrow, so be prepared for that. But yeah, I think that's kind of bogus that they decided to be, like, dramatic, and by them I mean the Supreme Court. Like, just let everybody know. Like, tell everybody today. It seems weird to, like, wait till Friday and then dip. I don't know, but SCOTUS is going to move how SCOTUS is going to move. Let's start with the abortion stuff. The case was Moyle v. United States. The Supreme Court sided with the Biden administration in a 6-3 decision when it dismissed an appeal from Idaho, sidestepping the question of whether the Biden administration's interpretation of federal law conflicts with Idaho's abortion law. The ruling means emergency room doctors can now perform emergency abortions in Idaho, despite the state's near total abortion ban. The case will now continue to play out in lower courts. And with key questions answered, the issue could end up before the Supreme Court. With key questions unanswered, the issue could end up before the Supreme Court again. Essentially, what happened here was the Supreme Court decided to just kick the fucking can. It's very unfortunate. I do like that. This might be the only quote I actually wind up reading from them, but from Ketanji Brown Jackson, one of the liberal judges in the minority of the Supreme Court, concurred in part and dissented in part with the decision. Today's decision is not a victory for pregnant patients in Idaho. It is a delay. While this court dawdles and the country waits, pregnant people experiencing emergency medical conditions remain in a precarious position as their doctors are kept in the dark about what the law requires. Meaning that I feel like you're still going to have doctors who are going to be very hesitant to do an emergency abortion, and potentially that puts people's lives on the line. You know what I mean? All because they don't want to get a malpractice suit. But I can understand the tension in that. It fucking sucks. And at the end of the day, this should be something that is clear-cut decided. Obviously, it's fucked up that we're even here, where you have a state like Idaho that can have a total abortion ban. But, I mean, sadly, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I do think it's spineless that the court decided to do it this way. But at least it keeps an air bubble, I guess you can say, where in the most dire situation, you can get an abortion. The doctor should do the abortion, and they know that they should. Like they have that legal precedent, at least, I guess you can say, for now. Like it's going to worm its way through the lower courts, and we'll see how that plays out. So, sadly, it's still complicated and unfortunate, but maybe one of the silver linings, I guess you can say here. The next one is Ohio v. EPA. The Biden administration suffered another blow in its ambitious environmental plan from the Supreme Court on Thursday. The justices 5-4, so a little different mixture here from the supercharged conservative majority here. The ruling temporarily stops the Biden administration's Clean Air Act's Good Neighbor provision, which aims to reduce reduce air pollution from factories and power plants in western and midwestern states that drifts downward across state lines. The rule is on hold while legal challenges play out. So, I mean, I guess we'll see how those legal challenges play out, but overall, that's a bummer. I know that regardless of this Clean Air Act, you can kind of say that right now, like, the environment's pretty fucked right now. The earth is definitely going through it in a bad way. And you could say that this is just a drop in the bucket, but still, you want to see positive change. You don't want to see the halting of it and seeing how, like, all these superpowers that are the main causes of it go out of their way to just be like, oh, we don't actually have to worry about this shit. Like, is it that relevant or pertinent? Do we have to, like, pay all this extra money? It's such a hassle. It's such a thing. Like, can we just do something else? And it's like, no, dude, we're supposed to be saving the goddamn planet. Like, isn't this climate change shit an issue for you? Is it melting alive, burning alive an issue for you? Flooding? Nothing? So we move. The next case, Harrington versus Purdue Pharma. The Supreme Court blocked a $6 billion nationwide settlement with OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma that would have shielded the wealthy company owners from civil lawsuits over the opioid epidemic, in exchange for billions of dollars to help address the crisis. And a 5-4 vote, yet again, The justices blocked the agreement arranged between state and local governments and opioid addicted victims. Now, I overall think this is a good thing. Fuck the Sacklers. They should not be getting a diplomatic immunity type of pass. You know, they shouldn't just be bulletproof in this. Like, no, people should be allowed to come and chip at your wealth at their goddamn legal leisure, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you just shouldn't get star power against this. That doesn't seem right. But at the same time, I can understand that they literally offered up so much money, and that money can be helpful to communities that have been ravaged by the opioid epidemic, that they have been a strong proponent in pumping and creating and maintaining, and now want nothing to do with, of course. They've washed their hands of it. We've learned. We've moved on. But, like, no, I do feel like there should be a level of responsibility. But I also see that, like, that money, those $6 billion, that can go and help a lot. And it can go to the victims that actually, you know, really can use it and need it. So, or at least it just gives them some kind of solace. You know what I mean? It at least allows them to close the chapter, you know, in their lives. So I get it. I get that this is a bit of a double-edged sword for sure. But once again, I cannot stress this enough. Fuck the Sacklers. I know you don't see me fucking up I'm like putting the double middle finger to my microphone, but fuck them, dude. So yeah, they should have to go through it. They should have to fucking sweat this out. They should have to pay it out. And that's, you know, anyway. Let me move to the next beat. Limiting power of federal agencies. The case is Securities and Exchange Commission of the SEC versus Jarsky. I'm going to say Jarsky, sure. In a 6-3 decision, the justices put new limits on the power of the U.S. SEC to combat securities fraud by ruling that the federal agency's use of in-house courts violates the Constitution. The Supreme Court said that that people accused of fraud by the SEC have the right to a jury trial in federal court. I think this is a weird stretch. I can understand that it's like, okay, we're like going into the legalities here and like maybe like sticking to like constitutional vision or whatever. But it's like, no, this is a federal agency. So I get that if this federal agency has a court system, you have to go through that system and you're judged and you have to like abide by that. It seems like a weird like the word I'm looking for is escaping me. It seems like a weird workaround to the law doing this, and it actually works. But I mean, okay, I guess. It feels like this, like almost like a weird beef that conservatives have, or at least the conservative justices, I should say, have with other branches like the SEC. And it's like, no, you can't do our job. No, put that shit through the federal court. That should have to go through them. Like, I don't know. I feel weird on that one. It doesn't seem like the correct move. But who am I? I'm not wearing the robes. God damn it. But yeah, there you go. That'll close it there. Let's go on and move to some international news. I'm sick of talking about SCOTUS. From CNN, Bolivian general arrested and accused of coup after dramatic showdown with president. This one's weird. We've covered them coups before, but this one's a bit odd, bit different. A Bolivian general has been arrested and accused of mounting a coup against the government after attempting to storm the presidential palace on Wednesday. Military units led by General Juan Jose Uniga, dismissed as commander of the Bolivian army just a day earlier, occupied the main square in the capital, La Paz, as armored vehicles rammed the palace door and soldiers tried to break into government offices. Hours later, President Luis Arce, who called on the public to organize and mobilize in defense of democracy, could be seen confronting Zuniga in the crowded palace hallway, ordering the general to withdraw his soldiers and stand down. After Zuniga was handcuffed and forced into the police car, a triumphant Arce raised his clenched fist towards the huge crowd that had flocked to the presidential palace, signaling the defeat of the attempted coup. So it's like, okay, that was a weird moment that, you know, because I was hearing it as it was like semi-unfolding, like kind of catching the tail ends of it. And it's like, okay, all right, you know, for the coup. A little bit of history here that they have. Bolivia has a long history of political instability. There have been almost 40 attempted or successful coups since 1946. The failed takeover comes as the landlocked South American country of some 12 million people struggles with spiraling economic crisis with a spiraling economic crisis that has sparked street protests in recent months. Now, here's where it gets a little bit odd, and maybe you could just say that this is like, a caught man's defense. But as he was being arrested, Zuniga alleged, without providing evidence, that he was acting on Arce's instructions. On Sunday, I met with the president, and the president told me the situation is very fucked, that this week would be critical, and so it's necessary to prepare something to bring up my popularity. And so he asked me, shall we take out the armored vehicles? Zuniga told reporters. So essentially he's saying that this coup is a little bit more of a faux coup, maybe a bit of a false flag kind of operation to just say like, hey, I need to get my numbers up and let's boost them. And it is worth mentioning that I believe his numbers did go up after, a little bit of like polling or whatever after the fact. Now, that's been denied. Like, there's no evidence of that. Like, this is just a guy who is, trying to cover himself now that he has, been thwarted, which is maybe valid. You know what I mean? I think the one thing though, I was listening to the BBC, and let me see if I can find the highlighted portion because they mention it here. Here it is. But echoing Zuniga's comments, an opposition MP accused the government of staging the coup in a bid to rally support. What happened today in Bolivia is a really bizarre situation. Andrea Berenitos, a senator for the opposition Civic Community Party, told the BBC, we can confirm that this was a self-coup organized by Luis Arce's government. So that's what they're saying. They're saying, no, this is fake. He's doing this for numbers. This is really fucked up, actually. But I would say, at least in Arce's maybe defense, regardless of whether or not this was him setting it up, you would be a crazy ass person if you're a general and your guy comes up and tells you, hey man, we gotta ruffle some feathers, bro. And also it's like, okay, so then you're kicked out, so now you're on your punish shit. And not to mention he's also made some like crazy edgy comments against a rival of Arce. So I don't know if that really works in favor of his argument or not, but it definitely seems like this guy's kind of off his rocker, and it's like saying, hey, we need to restore democracy, and now you got all your soldiers out on the square. It's like, bro, regardless or not, you're ramming, once again, a former president. I think it was like a palace or something like that, but I think Evo Morales, former president, was reporting on this, and he's like, yo, they're doing a coup. So it's like, you're looking like the duck, you're quacking like the duck, and now all of a sudden you're saying, I'm a patsy. It's like, okay, dude, but you were quacking like you were ready to start a revolution. So I don't really know what to tell you. You're definitely on the hook, no matter what. The question is, was this faked? Is this manufactured? I don't know. Right now my speculations hat's on. I know I didn't tell you it was on, but it's on. So, we shall see what's going to come out of this. I'm also kind of skipping around here from this article. I just wanted to mention the Morales thing because it's an important element to Bolivia. They have Arce and Morales has a bit of a rivalry that came from they were allies at one point and then shit, I guess, went south and whatever. That's above our pay grade for this episode. And today, I don't really want to get into the political arena in Bolivia. I don't know anything. I can't help you there. But, I just wanted to talk about this coup question mark? I don't know. We'll see. Let's move on. Let's go to space. I got a space update for y'all. From The Independent. Boeing Starliner has left its astronauts stranded on the International Space Station. Now what? Dude, and I have to say, Boeing is L after L after L. When we talked about Starliner, we already said this shit had some problems. It was rough ride getting to the launch pad, getting off the launch pad. I figured, hey, we're at the station, everything's good, hunky-dory. No, it turns out there's definitely trouble in paradise. And by paradise, I mean the International Space Station. Because this thing potentially is not working. Starliner is fucked. Starliner. Anyway, sorry, I had to do that. I've been saying that in my head all day. Boeing Starliner is suffering yet more problems, leaving the astronauts it carried to the International Space Station stuck there. The issues have left Boeing scrambling to examine the capsule from afar in an attempt to work out their cause and ensure that the astronauts are safe for their return. The two astronauts were intended to come home on the 14th of June, but that has been delayed multiple times. And now neither NASA or Boeing have announced when they will launch. Unconfirmed, an anonymous source has said that they're hoping for July 9th. They think that just doing some test fires on the propulsion system, which is seeming the problem. I think they have like a leaked helium thing, which is just making things very problematic. They think, though, that if everything's going to work well enough, they can at least get back by July 6th. But we don't know. That might be just another date that has yet to be pushed. Also, something I failed to mention, which is very important from the last time we talked about this. The veteran astronauts are Barry Butch Wilmore and Sunita Sunny Williams. Be remiss without saying their names for a second time. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, a very troubling situation. It's worrisome. But overall, from what I've heard and gathered from this article, they're definitely working on a scenario. They have some backups. I believe the Crew Dragon, which is SpaceX aerospace situation, their rocket, it is up at the space station right now, and they can actually take extra people, so that's good. They have an option there. They can also potentially use the rocket or the Starliner as just like kind of like an escape capsule. So essentially just saying, hey, we'll be able to get it back home, but you're definitely not using this shit again. And that's kind of part of the purpose of Starliner, is to make sure that this is a fit-to-purpose space rocket that you can take back and forth. So like it would kind of be a bummer if they fail at that mission. Also, they don't want to hop on and take the ride back to Earth on the Crew Dragon, because that's a big egg on your face for Boeing. Like, it's just such a big L. So they don't want to do that. They would much rather get back on their own laurels, with their own rocket. And, I hope they do. Honestly, no matter what, fuck the pride or whatever the hell. I don't care about the business model here. I just want to see all the astronauts that are in space get the fuck back home. You know what I mean? They do a really big service here, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like, and I've said this before, I love space, and I know these guys and gals, they love that shit more than I do, ever could. They do the real hard ass work. So I want to see them get home. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that, but I overall I feel like the vibe I'm gathering from people who are talking about this and from reading about it, that we shouldn't freak out yet. It's just concerning. It's definitely like, hey, hopefully they get back all right, Keep them in your thoughts and prayers if that's what you're into. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's good. They do a little history here, but I don't want to get into that. I don't really care. You can read that if you want to. Anyway, let's talk about some fucked up shit. We have one more thing to cover, and I will let you go. This one bugs me. As a person of color, a black man, they really did 12 Years a Slave in 2024. So, let me do my last break and we'll get into it. Oh, yeah. Okay. This story comes from the Tribune. The Express Tribune, I should say. I initially was going to pull this from actually, what is it? Perez Hilton. That's where I heard this story. They were like, wealthy white couple adopts black children and uses them as slaves! Exclamation. But they deleted that one. So, I found it from some other ones too. So, but yeah, this is what we're using. Wealthy white couple forced their adopted black children into slavery. What a fucking headline. A wealthy couple from West Virginia is facing severe charges after allegedly subjecting their adopted black children to forced labor and inhumane living conditions. Donald Ray Lance, 63, and Janine K. Whitefeather, okay, 62, pleaded, excuse me, pleaded not guilty to over a dozen new charges on Tuesday. This development follows the discovery of two teenagers locked in a deteriorating shed on the couple's property, as reported by Metro News. The couple was initially arrested in October after a wellness check revealed their 5 adopted children, aged 6, 9, 11, 14, and 16, living in squalor on their Sissonville property. Kanawha County Circuit Judge Mary Claire Akers, who described the indictment as one of the worst she's ever seen, stated it alleges human trafficking, human rights violations, and the use of forced human labor. The charges include human trafficking of a minor, use of a minor in forced labor, and child neglect causing substantial risk of serious bodily injury or death, according to WCHS. The arrests were triggered by a neighbor's report claiming that 2 teenagers were being locked in a shed. Upon investigation, police found a 14-year-old boy and a 16-year-old girl locked in the shed with minimal amenities and no running water. The teenagers reported being forced to sleep on concrete floor without mattresses and being locked in a barn for 12 hours after their last meal. Further investigation revealed a 6-year-old girl inside the main residence and an 11-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl were brought home later by Lance and Whitefeather. And this sentence fucked me up. Whitefeather claimed the teens liked the shed, calling it a clubhouse. Like, that is so fucking ghoulish to try to play this off like, oh, they just liked roughing it outside. They just liked it. They just like kind of being in the elements. Like, they're just like little campers. The words cannot describe my thoughts. They just can't. I cannot articulate them truly. Let's see here. Kanawha County Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Christopher Kravoniak revealed that the couple sold an 80-acre ranch in Washington for $725,000 and used the proceeds to pay for a $400,000 bond for their release from jail in February. The prosecution argued that the bond money, whether legitimate or not, was intended for human trafficking and forced labor. Crazy that you even have to take this angle. Why isn't it remand? Like, this reminds me that, like, the courts at the end of the day are like, hey, we got to get our goddamn bread here. And, like, if you got it, we'll let you go. You can let you get a little bit of freedom before you get to your trial or whatever. Maybe you might run or whatever. But, like, sure, you know, like, you shouldn't have to use this argument. They were literally bringing slavery back. Not that it ever left. I know. I'm not Justin Timberlake. I'm not oblivious. You know, you're not catching me on fucking Molly or Truvada. Anyway, I'm losing my place in these fucking goddamn ad-ridden sites. Let me scroll back to the bottom. So yeah, instead of $400,000, they just upped it to $500,000, and they were taken back into custody. Prosecutors are seeking to transfer the bond money to a trust fund for the children. So there's the only thing I can give you in terms of good news out of that, is at least maybe they're going to get a little bit of money. The kids who were forced to be slaves. Ooh, yeah. What a world. I love it. I love when, like, people I know and, like, people I just interact sometimes with, and they want to tell me how cool and how great it is to be an American and how lucky I am as a person of color. I've had white people tell me this kind of shit, like, and how racism is not a thing. I love it. I fucking love it. Let me collect myself. Ooh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm gonna bonus. I'm gonna take a little extra break here. God damn it, man. Ugh. God damn. Okay. What an episode. Thanks for hanging tough with me on that one. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/IsaiahNews. You become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, isaiahnews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. And hopefully subscribe to the YouTube. Really helps out a lot. Always trying to get those subscriber numbers up. Trying to get the views up. But yeah, hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.